you have your hands in a lot of things, and it seems that it goes like further and further into unraveling the truth of what really health is and kind of what's going on in our planet. And I know you have this project, the need to grow. What's been the impact like so far of like a project like a need to grow, and explain what the project itself is for the audience?
Yeah, so I was working a lot in environmental activism, which inevitably leads into our food system and agriculture as one of the most detrimental impacts on our environment as a whole, as many people know. And after a while, you see many of the most passionate activists burn out. And there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of blame, rightfully so in many cases. But what I initially saw, when I first started getting into this, when I was in my early 20s, one, I was always the youngest person there. And I thought, why is it that my generation at that time really wasn't that interested? And why is it that we're only pointing anger and complaining and marching against things? So it was something that I was just mulling over and thinking, how do we inspire more people to get interested in this? And I think the way that you bring people in is that it can't be so overwhelming and daunting and doom and gloom, but it has to be focused on solutions. So at that time, we asked ourselves, how are we going to feed people on this planet in a way that is not destroying the earth? And there's so many solutions. And just like, the solution of biodiversity, I think these solutions themselves are diverse because that's how nature does things. There isn't one quick fix for everything. And so my filmmaking partner and I, Ryan Wyrick, we kind of went on this experiment to say, are there interesting enough solutions that would be captivating? So we were really focusing initially on urban agriculture. How are we going to feed this density of population? Maybe it's rooftop farming or indoor vertical farming and all of these new technologies that we thought might pique people's interest. And as we went on this journey, we very quickly realized that soil was the underlying issue. And it's been awesome to see over this last 10 years how much soil has come into the mainstream conversation in a way that it really wasn't at the time that we started. I remember when we would tell people we're making a movie now about soil, just the eyes, glazing over. It's like, okay, this is the nerdiest thing you could possibly do. But what's fascinating through the film that we did was we really focused on the humanity of these three stories. They're three very different people that are approaching this food system crisis from three very different solutions. And for us, we thought that was a beautiful example of how anybody can get involved at any age, no matter what resources they have at their fingertips, and no matter what they've done beforehand or participated in solutions in any other way. And so what was so cool was to learn about the potential of soil as a solution. And just, some of these bigger points are that we're degrading our soil as we farm and extract. Mm-hmm. And so these conventional means of agriculture, but even organic means of agriculture, are not necessarily regenerating soil. So organic, we know, is really about what's not there. It's not using certain chemicals and pesticides, but it doesn't mean that they have more healthy soil at the end of the season. So what's even more important at this stage is actually looking beyond organic into what now people think of as regenerative agriculture, which means that this soil medium is actually, being increased. And what that comes down to are the microbes. And so there's this cosmos of microbes happening. In a teaspoon of soil, we can have billions upon billions of microbes. It's tens of thousands of different species. And that can seem a little too scientific and nerdy, but we know more about space and the cosmos in the skies than we do about this micro cosmic, galactic intercomplexity of species that really is at the basis of all of our life. And so I want to inspire more people to get interested in this. Instead of just looking through the telescope into the stars, we have this beautiful planet right here. And the foundation of all life really comes down to these microbes. And so if we can farm in a way that is actually protecting them, respecting them, then we see this beautiful cascade of solutions. It's not just limited to food, but obviously we're going to protect the farmers from poisons and chemicals, which is a huge crisis. The farmers that are poisoning themselves in order to get the job done. But we're going to protect the waterways from the leakage of these pesticides from either irrigation or rainwater runoff. It's poisoning the rivers. It's going down into the oceans. We're going to create more nutrient-dense food. So when we farm in a way that respects these microbial processes, what happens is the exchange between the plants is more optimized. And so now these minerals that are more available in the soil become more available in the plant. They're more available to us. And we know that humans are so deficient at this point. A big piece of that is because we've depleted our soils. Then you look at the wildlife in the surrounding area, so the biodiversity to thrive. The insects, the butterflies, and the bees get a lot of attention, but really it cascades much further beyond that. Obviously, it's a whole interconnected web. And then we're looking at the ability to, recycle carbon, whether, that means that we're actually storing it in the ground where it's supposed to be, because just by tilling, we're actually releasing some of that carbon into the atmosphere. But then, we're affecting pretty much every single solution. And the last one that is coming to mind right now is the water storage. Mm-hmm. So not just are we only protecting the waters from being polluted, but we're actually storing water in the landscape. And we can't emphasize enough how critical this is. If anybody is concerned about the future of the planet, I highly recommend that we do a deeper dive and raise more awareness about the water cycles. This, might be more of a key to thriving ecosystems and increasing biodiversity than almost anything, because we're desertifying. So people have heard this desertification. We look at places around the world that used to be lush and green. They're over-extracted and they're desertified. So now nothing can grow in there, but this medium is now dirt. And there's a huge difference between dirt and soil. It's that microbial life. So when those microbes are back there, when we increase the organic matter, even by the tiniest percent on, let's say, an acre of land, we can actually store 20 to 30,000 more gallons of water. So this is going to reduce drought and flood, because that water actually holds in the landscape like a sponge. And if we're talking about protecting not just humans, but all life on Earth, we really have to keep that water where it's supposed to be. And that's going to become, unfortunately, an increasing crisis of how we navigate who's using water for what. So I think we'll start hearing a lot more about the water cycle in the future.
Yeah, it's incredible how much we overlook something like soil, like the earth. We're all stale. We're all a foundation of it, right? Even and we just pour over it usually, right? There's just so much concrete. Some people don't even see or step in soil at all during the day, which is kind of wild, right? 100 years ago, it was all just soil and dirt and good stuff too.